This week on the Yoakum Strength Podcast, Austin had the chance to talk to Morgan Mccullough. Morgan is a competitive lifter with 5 American records and 4 Pan American records already to his name. Throughout the episode, he talks about his path into weightlifting, clean and jerking 400 pounds at just 13 years old, and overcoming a recent injury. If you love competitive lifting, this is an episode for you. As always, thanks for listening and enjoy the episode.
Before we hit the intro music, I wanted to introduce to you guys the Yoakum Strength Insider. The Yoakum Strength Insider is our online training platform that takes all of the ideas that we talk about on this podcast and implements them into a program that is available to you at the touch of your fingers. Our goal with the Yoakum Strength Insider is to create better movers, to level up your life, and to move forward from where you are. We do this in a holistic fashion. Not only will you receive a program that has helped hundreds of people become better movers, you'll also receive access to our app that allows you to track everything, has video links for all exercises, and allows you to be in constant communication with a Yoakum Strength coach. Along with this, you'll get our 30-page PDF nutrition and lifestyle guidelines. That includes everything from what to eat, how much of it to eat, why we're eating it, meditation habits, and other lifestyle habits that we implement with our clients to really level up their lives. If you're interested in trying out one of these programs, use podcast 25 in the discount section right before you pay for 25% off your first program. Boom.
This is the Yoakum Strength Podcast. Take the leap down the rabbit hole with us as we interview elite level guests to unravel what high performance really is. Thank you for listening. Join us next week as we dive down another rabbit hole. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star rating. Follow us on Instagram at Austin Yoakum to stay updated on future podcast guests. Keep chopping wood.
All right, Morgan, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, dude. I was telling you how I got the lift with Dozier in Texas, and that was the craziest thing I had seen in a long time, dude. I'm new to the Oli world, so like seeing big weights move is like very impressive to me. And me and Tim showed up late. I can't remember if he picked me up from the airport or he was like getting me settled into the gym, but Dozier got there early, and we walk in. The gym is basically lights off, no noise. And we walk in as he's snatching 315 as like a warm-up weight. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? I had no idea who he was. Like, that's how new to the Yoli world I was. And I was like, Tim, who the fuck is this guy? This guy is going to snatch our clean today. He's like, oh yeah. And then Dozier came up. He's like, yeah, I was just warming up for our cleans today. I was like, bro, that is insane. But he posted you on his page and said, if you need to learn anything about Olympic lifts, you're the guy. So we got you, dude. We got you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to get going about it.
Yeah.
I've known Dylan since probably 2014 now. So we were training partners for 5 years, and we've been friends, really good friends, ever since. I go down to Austin probably once a year, so I know Dylan very well.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's dope. That's got to be an insane training sessions there with you two. But one of the things we talked about before we started recording, you're kind of giving me a little bit of a history of your training career, and you said you started you had been cleaning 200 kilos for 8 years now,
Yeah, something like
and
that.
you're 22 years old, right?
Yeah.
So, bro, like how does that work? Like that has to be, dude. I have 15-year-olds that can't bench a bar. I can barely pick up a bar. Like, what was that journey like? Like, how did you get started in this journey to be able to clean 200 kilos by that age?
Man, so I started working out when I was 4 or 5 years old. Just doing like speed and agility stuff, and then my parents were they played in high school basketball and football and stuff like that. So sports were always really big in my family, but we didn't know what weightlifting was for a very long time. But the baseball facility I was training in to do my speed and agility turned into a CrossFit gym. And that was before CrossFit Kids, before any of that, before kids were even allowed to work out. But they had seen me work out before they knew. I kind of knew how to move my body from a super early age because most kids they're like Bambi, like they don't really know how to move, so you don't really trust them with a barbell. But for me, it came so naturally at 6 years old where I was just able to do a snatch. I was able to do a clean and jerk, and everybody like they didn't have to really teach me. It was I watched them do it and I can do it. Um, and moving from there, my dad was military, so I never stayed in a place for more than 2 years. So sports were always really hard to continue doing.
Mm.
I played football, I played basketball, I played all of that. But every 2 years when you're moving, there was no middle school football team. There's no like things like that. So weightlifting was always
The
you can
constant.
do that anywhere. Um, so when I was 11 years old, my first coach, Travis Mash, which was also Dylan's first coach, we got connected because I clean and jerked 200 pounds at 11 years old.
Bro, and were you just
Um,
doing this all by yourself at this point? Was your dad teaching you? Like, where did the fire, did you have just like an insane passion for this?
Man, when I
That's
first
even crazy at
started
11. Like, that's wild.
when I first started CrossFit, it was not do an hour class. It was I love this and I'm gonna do it hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
So my mom owned the CrossFit gym we were at when I was 11, and I think I did every single class workout in the afternoon. Even if it was the same workout, I would just keep doing it. Or it was like, oh, we have the strength thing for the 15, 20 minutes before the class starts. I would do that every single time. Uh, and I just loved it. I've always loved training. I've loved competing. And even before I started really competing in weightlifting, the competition was like, oh, I can do that. I never had people my age to really bounce back and forth with. It was always older people. So when I had I lived a little far away from Dylan at that point, but I would go up there every Friday. And when it's just me, 11 or 12 years old, going up against him when he was making Team USA for the juniors, I was like, I can do that eventually. Like I'll be able to catch up to him. Or we had probably five guys that were on Team USA, and it felt so far away from me at that point. But I was like, oh, they're clean and jerking 400 pounds. I'm doing 200. They're 8 years older than me. I can do that. Like it wasn't a long shot because I was around it so much. People get caught up in only their room. So you'll see people like they think a 300-pound clean is like really hard because you don't see any more of it where you're training at. You might see it on Instagram and stuff, but you don't really know how to get there. But I was really, really lucky early on to be able to see these big numbers fly from people that were really young too, like 18 years old, clean and jerking 400 pounds. What Dylan and Nathan were doing, like that's still really good. Um, so I was very lucky to be around them from 11 years old until now. Um, and I caught up at one point, but it was still there right there with me, and it pushes me every single day to not let them beat me anymore.
Dude, that is like a super sick like training background or like training room that you got to be
Yeah.
in, training environment. It almost like normalized the greatness like all around you. You're like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's just normal, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah,
like
nothing felt like a
anybody else
long
looking
shot.
at that is like, what the fuck? But you like that's so cool.
Yeah, it was nothing ever felt like a long shot for me because I was just seeing it happen. If I was training by myself when I was younger, maybe the 400-pound clean at 15 would have happened at 17 or 18. But being able to see these numbers move, I'm pretty sure when I did my 400-pound clean when I was 15, Nathan did his 220 kilo clean at like 22. So I was like, oh, if he can do that, I can do 400. If he's doing almost 500 pounds, like
You're
he's
like
not
the
100
you're
pounds
like the
better than
small
me.
fish in this just
Yeah.
massive ocean, but
Yeah.
you're the big fish over here. That's kind of crazy. And I feel like did you like how this is something like as a let's say a competitor or somebody that's like pushing yourself because I think a lot of people especially in like American football world, like they want to be the big fish in a small pond. You know what I mean? And I feel like it limits, and like every single time I'm the worst athlete or the worst like I play a lot of like slow pitch softball. Every single time I'm the worst hitter, dude, it's the best sessions I've ever had because I'm learning so much from these people. But I feel like a lot of people avoid wanting to be the small fish. Like, did you have a mental thought process of like how to approach that or how to do that? Like, how did you go about like being the small fish to eventually grow it? Because eventually you want to grow into being the big fish, you know what I mean? But I feel like so many people limit themselves to staying the big fish in a small pond, but they're still a small fish in the ocean. And you know what I mean? Like you started off as a small fish and now you're the big fish.
I think I've always just loved the chase.
Yeah.
It's very hard to look behind you when you're trying to excel, but if there's always something you're chasing after, some people don't get that in the room they're in. Other people get it from Instagram or just meet day. But for me, I always had that chase, chasing down numbers, chasing down records, chasing down everything that even though I was good everywhere else, I didn't really look everywhere else. I was like, I'm not the best in my gym.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm not,
crazy.
I don't care how good I am everywhere else. I want to be the best in my gym. And it took years and years and years to do that. But once I finally got there, I don't want to say it felt amazing because I definitely had more room to grow. And now it's going to sound cocky, but there's not that many people that can push me anymore. So I wish I didn't get there that early, but I feel like having that chase, and especially now coming back from injury, I have that chase again. I want to get really, really good again and love every second of it. But when you get to the top and you stay there and no one's really trying to clip on your heels or you're not clipping on theirs, it's like, okay, this gets a little complacent and how do you improve? But when I was younger, it was always like, man, Nathan's doing this, or Dylan would come and train, and it's like, man, he's beating me. There was so many sessions where me and Dylan's numbers were like kind of tied, but he would always end up edging me out on something, and it was incredibly frustrating every day. I would outsnatch him, or he would outsnatch me by like 5 or 6 kilos, and then we would tie on clean and jerk, and I would go to the number to win, and I'd miss it and the amount of just arguments we would get into, not even like angry arguments, but it's just like, man, I can't beat you. And even now, like he did the 360 total. My best ever was 365. So it's like we're still neck and neck. So anytime I go down to Austin, it's like, all right, who's gonna win this one? So we've been doing that for mm, 6 years now. We've been pretty close for 6 years, so it's been super exciting and constantly chasing to win every time instead of going back and forth.
Well, and that was one thing I wanted to ask you too, because you mentioned it. Like when you do reach the certain level of you have caught up to all these people, and it's not even like because that's a crazy thing. You catching up to people in your gym is like you are one of the top people in the nation. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's not just your gym you're the top person in, like your gym is just super elite, so now it's like who do you look to? Do you go to Instagram? Do you go to YouTube? Do you look for like the legends? Do you look for like the next, like what does keep you from getting complacent in that setting? Like what does keep you reaching for the next thing, or are you still trying to like find that approach to like, okay, what is the thing that like motivates me? And I know coming back from the injury, and we'll talk about that too, I'm sure that's a big motivating factor, but maybe before the injury, what was that thing that was like, dude, I need to find the next thing to push me like that.
I think for me, instead of looking towards social media or looking towards other people, it was really mentors of like who had done it before me was the big thing. So one of the main people that has always been like a great mentor for me was Piro Stimas, who is the greatest weightlifter of all time. So having him as like a mentor, teaching me things and pretty much having me under his wing from an early age was just very helpful. And it wasn't really the numbers I was chasing at that point. It was, in a way, a legacy of like, how do I make my name something that people don't forget.
Mm.
If I'm going to be good now, I want to be remembered for the rest of my career or beyond my career. Um, and it's crazy to say at 22, but whenever you have a lot of accolades early on, it's like, how do I continue that? And you don't see a lot of people that are able to continue for 20, 25 years when like I'll only be uh 35 whenever I hit my 30-year mark, which is like it's getting up there, but most people don't hit 30 years until they're about 50.
Yeah.
So it's something where you have to look at, all right, what did the people do before me to get to where their legacy was, rather than looking at people to my left and right and being like, well, they started later than me. They're going to have more improvement, or they started before me and finished up sooner, things like that. So you can be motivated. Like there's people in my weight class now that they're they're coming up to the numbers that I had before my surgery, and I'm like, well, now I'm gonna have to chase them for a little bit.
Hell yeah.
So I'm back in that chase, but I don't want to I don't want to be there for too long.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you like, because I feel like you are in such a unique spot with how early that you started. How do you handle the pressure of that, dude? Like the pressure of like having done it and like having been the person. Do you think about that in that way? Is there like was there a moment where you were like, okay, I'm chasing everybody, I'm chasing everyone, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm the one being chased. Like, did you have any of those moments? You know what I mean? Like, as because I feel like as anything that I've done, it starts off super fun and super just like playful, and then but then you get to a level where you're good at it, and then you're like, fuck, dude, like I have to like
Yeah.
continue to, you know what I mean? Like that little bit of pressure. How do you handle that? What do you think about that?
Man, honestly, that's something I have struggled with in the past is just pressure. There was when I was younger, we always had like an end of year goal of like when I was 13, the goal was a 275 total. When I was 14, it was 300. When I was like, there was always a goal. And there was very few times that I actually hit the goal on the money. It was always a couple kilos shy or something like that. So I always felt pressure to get better. But once I had a great junior career, I ended off making a senior team, the Senior Pan Am Games when I was 20, which is kind of unheard of going to a meet like that so young. So I didn't know what to really expect going into my senior career because I'd already started it before I even got there. But the difference is now you don't have those junior meets and the youth meets to fall back on. So if you don't make this senior Pan Am or senior world team, you're not competing internationally all year, which I've never had that experience. It was like we're chasing the senior world team, senior Pan Am team, but I have the junior meets to do too. So those were the focus. So in the beginning of 2024, that was still during the Paris quad, and everybody was still trying to qualify. And I was a couple kilos short of being in the qualifying for the Olympics, so I wasn't able to go to any of those meets, even though I qualified for them, because I just wasn't in contention, so they didn't bring me. Um, so going from making all these teams, being at the top of my weight class to now, and I mean, I was still going to nationals, I was still able to win nationals and things like that, but not having the ability to be like, I want to go to Worlds and prove myself. I didn't have that ability. Um, and the pressure of just getting back on a team after being on them for so long, it really did get the best of me. I I was stressing out all the time. I couldn't sleep for anything. It was every waking moment I was thinking about getting back on that platform internationally, and it kind of got to me. It was like, have I gotten worse or is everybody else just getting better than me? Kind of thing. It's like when you compete for so long and you've done so well, and then now it's like you can't improve no matter what you're trying to do. It is incredibly frustrating. Um, so now, I mean, I've taken this past 6 months to reflect kind of how I want it to look now, and it's zero pressure. No coach will be able to tell me what I need to do. and it was all what I need to do. That was the thing. It was you need to get back on this team. You need to do this. You need to do that. So I never got to want anything.
Mm.
And it kind of kills your love for a sport whenever you don't get to want something. You have to do it. Um, and when you're an elite athlete, it's very hard to be like, I want to win nationals, but I can't go to the world team. All the elite weightlifters, yeah, they want to win nationals, but it's for something. It's never, let's go to nationals, win, and then chill at home for another 6 months. It's always, I want to go to this world team in 2 months, and that's why I'm winning nationals. Um, so for me, when I won nationals and I didn't qualify for worlds, it was like, I don't care. Why do I care about winning this when I'm not doing my goal and it's falling short? And it goes back to when I was 14, 15 years old, falling short of that total. I've always had that pressure of like, you have to hit this total instead of, man, it'd be really cool and it'd be really fun to be able to do this. It was always, you need to. And now I'm done with that. I need to just want to do it again. And
Hell
that's
yeah, dude.
yeah.
That's gonna be dope. I feel like once people get that it's like the you see it all the time with like athletes that are young. They have success young, and then it's like dude, there's so many times we've had coaches or really good athletes on a podcast where they talk about a very similar journey where success really young, success really early, maybe not young, but early. Then something happens, injury, whatever, burnout, and then they have that second revival, and that second revival, dude, is always like way cooler. They're like they have so many unlocks, so that'll be a dope kind of journey. One of the things I was interested in talking to you about because Olympic lifting is such a weird sport because you can do it's like football you can't play a game in practice, right? Like you really like it's just really not the same, man. It's just like it's so different. It's like you can practice all the plays, you can do all that stuff, but then it's so different when it comes to game day. It's a different opponent, it's a different scheme, whatever it is. Whereas like Olympic lifting, you can have like you can max out in the gym, right? Like you could do it, but it's still different than going to competition with the pressure and like doing it with the warm-ups and doing it like with the time frame and that type of thing. What's the difference in like competition training and like just ran competition like lifts and like random training for you? How do you prepare for those two things? What's that like approach like for you? Do you have a difference between like your training totals and your comp totals? Are you a person that just like loves the competition and it gets you up? Like what's that process like for you?
So for me, I always treated training and practice very similar.
Yeah.
And I kind of have two definitions for it. Training is the very early phase after a competition that you build your leg strength, you build just strength in general, and that's the squatting, that's the volume, that's all of that. And then the closer you get to a meet, that's when you start practice. Where we're doing the more traditional lifts of we're snatching, clean, and jerking 90+% all the time. We're doing this. Um, I would wear singlets in training more once I got to competition or got closer to competition, things like that. So you have to flip a switch in your brain of, okay, we were training, but when do we start to practice? And about 8 weeks out is really where practice starts. You're not getting any stronger in the last 8 weeks. It's very hard to get strong in 8 weeks. So you got to use all that training, or like in football when you're practicing, you have to use all of those plays and all of that stuff to get prepared for the game. And our game starts about 8 weeks out. You have to get used to your openers, very comfortable, confident, all of that with your openers and second attempts. And very rarely will you hit your third attempt in training. Um, but the practice starts with, okay, now I have to pull my singlet up. Now I have to have these specific numbers for my warm-ups because that's what I'm going to do on stage. You're running through a very fine line of I'm going to do this competition over and over and over again in training or in practice. And this is what's the meet's going to be like. You almost visualize it so many times that you do it in practice all the time. So when you get to the meet, it's like, okay, I've done this before. Now you get the spotlight and you get judges in front of you. It's no different. If you're just training all the way through it and you don't wear the singlet and you don't hit the openers like you want to, or you take different jumps to get there than you would at meet day, you're going to be unprepared. Whether you're doing great or not, if I'm going to open at a 160 snatch, my last warm up at the meet isn't going to be 150. So why would I go 150 to 160 in training?
Mhm.
Things like that. It's like you have to have those jumps figured out. You have to have when am I going to pull my singlet straps up figured out. Things like that. When am I going to start smelling salts or putting the different music on and stuff like that. You just have to visualize it and practice it all the time. So when you get to the meet day, it's like, okay, now I just have a bunch of good guys in my session and there's judges in front of me. And now I'm the only one lifting instead of having a room full of people. That's really the only difference.
Dude, that's super dope because that's the difference between basically a good sport practice and a bad sport practice is like the bad sport practice is just so far removed from the game and the better sport practices are way more representative of the actual game and those teams are always the teams that are doing the best. So that's super cool. Is that what your training looks like for all 8 weeks during that like practice phase? Like is that what is it like 3 days a week, 5 days a week of pretty much meet prep or like are you doing any like any stimulus training to like be able to push, or is it like this is going to be my marks at this meet? You know what I mean? Or is it like it's all calculated, it's all there? It's not like I'm going to hit a big PR if I'm feeling great that day. Like how does that kind of work? I've never actually like prepared for a meet like that. That sounds dope.
Pretty early on in that training cycle, we'll push a little bit more than we would. We'll try and hit, let's say I want a 370 total. Our total we'll try and hit that probably in the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then
Mhm.
that last five, we're just going to coast and be like, okay, these are our openers. We did this 2 weeks ago. Now we're going to push for like the openers and second attempts, and we're not going to touch our third attempts. Where if we do stimulus training where it's like you keep your squats up a little bit more than you would for the first few weeks, but once you get to about four weeks out, that volume has to drop. You need to, that's what a peak is. The volume drops, you're already strong, and then you're just moving weights like they're nothing just because you've been so prepared for, let's say, 5 months of practice that you need to use it. So we would do, well, for the past 3 years, I was training 9 times a week.
Hell yeah.
So we would do uh, heavy powers in the morning with squats, and then we would do our fulls in the afternoon with singlets and do either if we did front squat in the morning, we'd back squat in the afternoon and then pulls. And I wouldn't pull any more than what my third attempt would be or a little bit more than my third attempt. So I'd get very confident with my snatch pull and my clean pull of, okay, this is moving easy. Meet day, I'll be able to pull under it. And then like a Tuesday would be a little bit lighter. We'd pull back. It was one day a week or one time a day. And then Wednesday, Friday would be the double day again, pretty similar. And then it would just be constantly doing the same movements and just getting very, very confident in, let's say we do a 5x1 at our opener. If we can make four of those, but we miss one, you made most of them. You're probably going to be able to make it at meet day. Um, so we wouldn't just go first, second, third attempt all the time, but it would be like, all right, today we're going to hit our opener 3 to 4 times. Got to know that you can make it. And if you can make your opener 4 times, you can probably make a second attempt. And ideally, you'd be able to make a third. So it's not constantly doing, all right, 92%, 96%, 100%. That's like the last 2 weeks of like, we're going to try and hit as much as we can on our 1 week out day, and then we're done. We're just gonna snatch 70% the last week and then go to meet day feeling fresh and recovered. Um, but that's when the stress starts when you're not lifting heavy for that last week.
And then, so when you're doing like you get to the meet, let's say you had a total planned, somebody beats you or somebody like jumps ahead of you. Do you adjust that? Like what's the actual like competition day look like, or do you like stick to your guns and like it's like this was the total that was planned? Like how does that work?
It kind of it'll vary. I don't like to lose.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, do you just add the nick? Like, how does that work? That's kind of dope.
we'll have like ideal goals of like this should win or this should be the total we need.
Okay.
So let's say that 370 is the goal. We might do a little bit less or a little bit more if that's what we need. Um, so especially at an international meet, they kind of choose your numbers for you and they go based off medals. And so if you snatch really well and you need a lighter clean and jerk to lock in a bronze medal, they're going to give you that bronze medal before we do anything kind of stupid and like go
Who
straight
is
for
they? What
gold.
do you mean by they?
The head coaches, so it's Mike Gattone and Piero Stimas.
Okay.
So they're like the head of the national team.
Yep.
They will choose for you. They give you a little bit of a loose, like, all right, we'll open at this, and then if you prove to us that you can take a bigger jump, we'll go to that bigger jump. But at nationals, that's one thing where it's like you're on your own. You and your coach are able to really go balls out on whatever you want to do. Um, so for me, it was always get my openers in and then see where everybody else is at. And I'm pretty comfortable doing like a 7 kilo jump on a clean and jerk. So if I have, let's say, a 195, but someone hits 200, but we snatch the same, I'll go 201. I'm not going to stick to that 200 that I want to do. I'm going to go for the win no matter what. Um, so it's not going to be like super varied, but it might be a kilo more, kilo less, a couple kilos, just very, very close to that goal total. But we have to be confident that, okay, it's only 4 pounds. Like we can do that. It's not going to be that drastic. But there is times where it's like if someone's that much better than you, you're going to stick to your cards and be like, okay, let's fight for silver.
Yep.
But if it's really neck and neck, you have to go for it.
That's pretty sick. Are most of your PRs in training or in competition?
It really depends. Mostly it's in training.
Okay.
We we were very good at doing as high as possible in training to where we had already kind of touched the numbers before we get there. So there has been times where I've missed a number in training that was a PR and then gone out onto the platform and hit it, but I've at least felt it in my hands. There was never a time that I'd put a weight on the bar that I hadn't at least tried before.
Tempted. Yeah, that's what I was wondering if you had to like jump up on it and this is
Yeah.
the first time to go get the win.
Yeah, there was a few times that I like hadn't competed for a while or like I'd improved a lot and it was like I've improved by 15 kilos since I last competed at a meet. So my openers were higher than what my last meet or even my third attempts were. And it was 5 months and I had already been my openers PR'd my comp total. So sometimes it's like that. Anymore, no, there's no chance I'm gonna open with comp PRs, but um it's definitely varied. You gotta get confident with the weights, and I was never one of those that could just be like, oh, I can go 90% in training and then try and go 100% at the meet. I have to feel the heavy weights in my hands early.
Yep, yep. When you're saying you're training 9 times a day, how are you recovering from that? Like what's the recovery process like? How is the body feeling like during those training sessions? Because I feel like that's a big piece of the puzzle that people don't realize.
I wouldn't recommend it. It's
That's I'm
not
like, dude, that's gotta be brutal.
it your body gets very exhausted. You're not tired, you're not sore, but you're just exhausted all the time. So what I would do was after every session, I would sauna and cold plunge and then get in like the Normatec boots or something just to try and get some life back into my legs. But honestly, you kind of have to grind through it. It's not fun all the time. Training 9 times a week is not fun. It means you have no real time for anything else. Um, but when I was at my best, it was like, okay, this is what I'm doing and all I need to do. Um, so it was just you can't really change it at that point. If I went from 9 down to 6 or 5, it's like I can, but then I feel like I'm not training enough. So I never thought about cutting it down, but then my body just was falling apart on me. Uh, Slowly but surely fell apart on me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the crazy thing about Olympic lifts, and what I've been realizing is like with any skill, one of the things that I'm a big fan of, obviously repetitions and like frequency of repetitions, right? Like to get good at a skill, got to do it a bunch. Everybody knows that, right? But like, let's say in the world of baseball or even football, it's like you can throw a football 100 times, right? Like maybe your elbow or shoulder is a little bit sore, right? Olympic lifting world is so different because you need to snatch 100 times, but you can't just snatch the barbell 100 times and it's like, okay, I got my technique down. Like the technique of snatching a barbell versus the technique of snatching what you snatch, significantly different, right? And the feel of that is different. So like to get the reps that you need to get done to work on just the skill piece of it, dude, it's such a physiological demand on the system. Like that's why I've been geeking out of the Olympic lifting world is like finding that balance of working the skill while managing the physiological stress, but you also like have to grow the physiological adaptation as well. You know what I mean? Like you also have to like grow, you have to get stronger. It's so much different than a team sport where you can just get better at throwing a football by throwing a football, get better at like hitting a baseball by hitting the baseball, and you can do it over and over and over again. And you'll be tired, maybe your back's a little bit sore, but dude, hitting a baseball is significantly different than snatching 400 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to really know what percentages to focus on. You can't do 90% 9 times a week. Like you have to have a variation. But we really didn't touch less than 80% every day. Like we always had
So you're 80 to
80% on the bar.
89.
Yeah. So it's like there was really no day where it was like this one's easy.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what beats you down. I feel like if we had days that were like, I don't know, the 65%, like it's still some weight and it doesn't feel that light, but you're just moving through it and working positioning. But when you're going 80+% every day, that 80% is gonna feel like 100% some days. It's just gonna feel terrible. So you have to trust yourself that like one, that your body will hold together, and then just be confident that you're doing the right thing to get to where you want to go.
So, what is because you talked about how you're coaching athletes as well, and obviously you've done it yourself, and you've gained so much knowledge just from doing it yourself. But like, what's your approach when it comes to, let's say, like an intermediate lifter that you're working with, that wants to learn and get better at the snatches and cleans? To balance like the skill aspect of it with like just the getting stronger aspect of it. And it's like since joining the Olympic lifting world, dude, you have like the form Nazis that'll come out and you go to their page and it's like, dude, they've been doing this sport for 10 years and they can't snatch 100 kilos. It's crazy. I'm like, dude, like something is wrong there. It doesn't matter how it looks. Like something has to change if you've been doing this for 10 years and that's what you're doing. And then you have like on the other end, just like the total meatheads, like how do you balance the two things of like working the technique while getting stronger, building up these things concurrently, and like how do you view it as a coach? Like how would you approach it with an intermediate lifter? Let's say I'm coming to you to like become a better Olympic lifter, a better snatcher, a better cleaner.
I think for me, when it comes to trying to get stronger, you can't really do the snatch and clean and jerk over and over and over again to get stronger. So whenever I'm trying to get either my national guys or people that aren't there yet to get stronger, we're just doing a lot of squatting and a lot
Mm.
of pulling, and we're trying to mimic our lifts with the squats. So we're not going to be doing a low bar or something like that where it's not going to translate. But then we're going to have all of our squatting, our high volume, not high percentage, but like a 80-ish percent for multiple reps, build your legs up, and then we're going to snatch. And it might feel terrible, but you're working the technique with 65 to 70%. You're getting stronger, but you can't really go, I'm going to max my snatch out and get my legs strong at the same time. It has to vary. So some people, they're already really strong. Like if a power lifter went to weightlifting, you don't really need to get their strength up there. So we'll focus a lot more technique and just um, doing the lifts a bunch, getting confident with it. We'll do technique more often than not than doing heavy lifting, at least for a while. But for some people that are just not super strong, but are pretty technically sound, we're just going to squat our asses off and then we're going to do our lifting. Um, so it just depends on like what your limiting factor is. I feel like if and it varies for every person. You don't really know what someone's biggest setback is until you watch it. It's you'll have guys that can clean 170, but their best front squat is 180. And then you'll have guys that can clean 160 that can front squat 220. So it's like, what is the biggest limiting factor between why aren't these guys lifting the same, or why is the guy front squatting 220 not cleaning 190, 200? So honestly, it really just depends on what that person needs the most.
Yeah, and attacking the weaknesses. I really like that approach. When you are working on the technical aspects of the Olympic lifts, like how are you approaching that? Because that's something that's like you see a bunch of people like when they're doing teaching people the Oli lifts, they're like PVC pipe in the hands or just barbell in the hands. And like one thing like it's like I can do like really good, it like feels really good technically and looks really good technically up until like let's say 80%, and then that technique starts to break down. It almost just feels like a totally different lift. Like how do you balance out when it starts to get heavy and like keeping that technical piece? Because you can give them the knowledge of it with like a PVC pipe in their hand, but then it's like the feel of it and like actually integrating that to a heavier weight. Like what's your approach like when you're working with an athlete long term to like work on the technical aspects?
I think it's very important to one, have days where you're doing the lighter weights where it's okay, we're going to do position work with 65%, 70%, doing things
When you
like
say position work, what does that mean?
there's different variations of movements where you can do like a break off snatch where you're just pinching it off the floor and then you're doing a snatch, or you can do a three position snatch where you're going from shin to knee to hip, things like that with about 60 to 65%. Some of those days are very needed, but then when you're having that like 80% breakdown, that's when you do 7 or 8 singles at 80% or a little bit lighter, and you're just trying to build consistency. Like, okay, maybe 85% is where I start missing, but if I can do 80% and almost make it identical all 7 or 8 times, then this is going to get my confidence up and make me know that I'm consistent in the movement, but I just have a little bit of fear with it or something like that. Because if you can get consistent with a lighter weight, you know you can do more. But some people get so carried away with doing like working up to one weight and then continuing to build, or you'll do like a waves thing where you go up to 80%, you drop back down to 70, do a couple reps, you go back up to 80. But if you can just stick at the same weight and hound just technique and making sure you can do the same positions every single time, or no stepping forward. If you step forward, it's a miss or something like that, where you just make
Little
it.
mini games with it.
Yeah, you just got
Yeah.
to play games with it and be like, okay, this is fun. I'm confident that I can make this every time. And then let's say that's a Monday, you come in Wednesday and you do like three singles at something. You know the day before or 2 days before that you had the eight in your back pocket of, okay, now this is light. I'm gonna hit my 80% and it's gonna be not even a second thought. It's like, okay, this is super easy now. And you do that for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you keep increasing. Like the first week, it'll be 80%. The next week, it'll be 83%, 86%. And of course, you drop the amount of reps down as you go. But then it's going to be like, oh, I'm up to 92% and I'm able to do this for 3 or 4 reps because now I'm just confident that every time I've built, I've been able to do it. That's my main focus whenever it comes to inconsistency with certain percentages.
Yeah, dude, that's super dope. I ran Dozier's program for like 3 months, and that's exactly what he was having us do. And I did it like almost was like a brainwash. I was like, at one point, I was looking, I was like, dude, I'm doing 6 singles at like almost my old PR now.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of crazy. And it was like it had just happened through the 3 months. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
super dope. Somebody like yourself, are you still obviously you're still focused on technique, but it's like, is it a technical thing that you're still cleaning up and working on, or is it just like a physiological? Like when you get to a level that you're at, is it just a physiological like? I just you got to grow the physiological sense. Are there still technical things that are like this is holding me back 10 kilos that I need to go fix, or is it like so you've done so many reps that now it's just like a straight I need to gas the system. I need to bring up the CNS somehow.
I think that if if you get to a certain point where your technique is what it's going to be, there's still always going to be certain flaws or errors that you can fix. But for someone like me or other people that are national level, you're not going to just up and change a bunch of stuff. So it's going to be more. what can we do to make the technique you do better, not what other people are doing that are getting good. Because when you first start, other other people are going to tell you, oh, you should watch this guy lift and try and mimic that. Once you get to a certain level, it's going to be like, no, this is what you are. This is how you move. But let's say you're a little disconnected in your pull and you're crashing on a clean. Maybe we have to fix something there, but it's a cue or a little slight uh uh balance change more than an actual technique change. Um, but early on, you don't really know what your technique is. You're still trying to find that. But as the more years you do it, you just naturally start getting into like certain positions that feel more comfortable for you. So for me, I haven't really changed my technique in 10 years probably, but it's gotten more smooth and we've changed some little flaws that were happening over and over and over again that finally got built into my brain of like now I just don't do them anymore.
And so in the age of information, like how do you, if you're working with like a new lifter, not I don't want to say like a new like where they haven't touched a barbell before, but like a decent like an intermediate level lifter comes to you, like how do you work with somebody that is like neurotic about like my technique should be this, my technique should be this versus like and like how do you know what should actually be fixed and what's an actual flaw versus like this is how you move, this is your technique, this is how you snatch. And I realize like in the baseball world, I work with a lot of baseball athletes and it's horrible, dude. It's like these dudes are trying to like just these like robotic ass swing and it's like dude that's not you like that's just like some 90-year-old baseball coach telling you elbow high and like do this but it's like not athletic. It's like you're losing your athleticism in there but there's still things you have to do in your swing that have to be right. You know what I mean? Like there's certain parts that
Mhm.
need to be right and there's certain parts that need to be athletic and free. How do you balance that with the Olympic lifting world where it's like everybody's telling you it needs to be this, it needs to be this, and then you can see like a different lifter do something different or a different lifter doing this, like, and how do you know it's like you just like justifying your mistake or you being neurotic about something that you don't need to be neurotic about?
I think it comes with who people are watching a little bit. Like if you're over 6 feet tall, you probably shouldn't watch Chinese weightlifting. It's a little different. Um, so you can tell that some people when they're starting to lift, they like found their lifter that they want to mimic. But it's like you got to
Like you
look
can
at
point that out from them. That's super
yeah,
cool.
it's
That's dope.
it's very you can tell when people are trying to copy somebody.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, maybe you should try and copy somebody, just not them. Not because their lifting is bad, but let's say you have a long femur, someone that you're trying to copy has a short femur, it's not going to look the same. It's going to look worse, and you're not going to be able to make the weights that you want to. You might be able to do it at like the 70%, and it might look great, but at some point that's going to break down. So for me, it would be like the Akbar Jurayev or Ruslan Nurudinov, those guys that are taller, European, that would be more of I don't copy them, but that would be the people that I would look towards if I wanted to. So you have to look at proportions, not even the same weight class, but like, okay, this dude's tall or this guy's short. He has the same arm length as I do or the same femur length that I do, at least similar. And then we can talk about, okay, you can try that. But if you're just like, oh, I want to copy Carlos Nassar, but you're 6'6" and not anywhere near the athlete he is, it's not going to work. So why are we even going to discuss that? We have to find your technique because if you're thinking about copying somebody, that just goes over and over and over in your brain about what they do, and you really have to focus on what you're able to do.
And how do you like drill in with somebody to like find their technique? Like where you're like getting them confident in like, hey, this is yours. Like, is it a feel in a snatch? Is it like the look of the snatch? Like what is that to where it's like that is your technique. This is where you need to be. This is what you need to try and do.
I think it's more you try and if you're there in person with them and you get them into the certain positions that look ideal for their proportions, that's where you're like, okay, this is where I want you to set up at. This is what I want you to do. But sometimes it might not feel comfortable. It might feel weird and it might not be the exact thing they need. But that's when you kind of you ask them, you're like, okay, does it feel like you're off balance? Does it feel like you're more on your toes? Things like that. And you let them choose in a way what they want to focus on. But then if they say something kind of stupid, you're like, no, it's not supposed to feel comfortable. Like if you're in your setup and you're like able to relax and not shake a little bit, you're probably not in the right spot. So I don't want you to sit in the bottom of an air squat and then try and snatch it. Like you need to have some sort of tension there. Um, but some people they try and treat their setup like it's supposed to be comfortable, and you can tell with how the weight shoots out off the floor on them, or if they crash on the bottom of their cleans because they're just not tight. That's the main issue is if you're balanced on your midfoot and you're just tight throughout the lift, that's where it matters. It doesn't matter how high your hips are or how low they are if you can keep your positions. But it's them finding their technique is kind of something they have to do on their own. And then you just try and work with them on, okay, maybe lower your hips a little bit, maybe raise them a little higher. And that's on the technique days of like, okay, let's see how 70% can move if you try this. And
Mm.
then you go to the big day. You're like, oh, this didn't feel great. I'm going to go back to this. That's when you know that's their technique. That's where they feel most confident in.
That's super cool that you have them like play around with the different variations on that. One of the things that we talked about and people, if they were looking at your Instagram, saw yesterday was the retirements might be over. The comeback might be on. But before we get to the comeback, we have to talk about the retirement in the first place. And you said at a meet you fully tore your UCL in a snatch. What happened, dude? Like, was it? Did you have pain going in? Was it a total freak injury? Like. Dude, I can't. Dude, you got me freaked out now about to go snatch. I'm like, God damn, bro, that shit better not pop on me. What happened?
Uh, so it was a long process before my last meet that I wasn't necessarily feeling the most healthy. Um, I've never been one to really talk about how my body feels before, but now I've been more open about it just because of what happened. So about 8 weeks out, I decided to cut a bunch of weight before this meet. Then I went from weighing about 230 to having to weigh in at 207. So it was a big, big weight drop for me.
Were you doing that while training 9 times a day?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn, dude.
So I was barely eating and my body just like it wasn't hurting, but it was just more fatigued than normal doing that amount of volume and frequency while my weight was dropping. Probably would have been smart to cut down my sessions if I was going to lose all that weight, but we just didn't. Um, so once I got to the meet, I had a little bit of like a right shoulder pinch, but I was like, this is fine. Like I'll just roll out or something like that before it and I'll be fine. I made weight, felt great. I was like, okay, this is gonna be the meat of my life. If making weight was the biggest stress I had going into the meet, I knew I was capable of the numbers I was trying to hit, and I had done them. But making weight was the hardest part. So once I did that, like the stress was gone. Um, and then I got to the back room and started warming up, and it just didn't feel right. Everything was like kind of shaky overhead, and I just didn't feel like I was moving like I'm supposed to move. So on my last warm up, I think my last warm up was 150 on snatch. I felt a pop in my elbow, like a really, really loud pop. And I was like, this isn't good. But then I took like the voodoo floss and stuff and I wrapped my elbow and I was like, oh, I'm good. I can go out and do my opener. I go out for my opener, throw my snatch behind me, felt it kind of pull again, and I was like, okay, this is a little weird. Take my second one, I
You
catch
got
it.
the opener after that?
Oh no, I missed it.
Oh,
No,
I was
no,
like, God damn,
no,
dude.
I missed that real bad. Second attempt, same weight. I caught it, threw it out in front of me. I just couldn't stabilize it. I was like, okay, now I'm one lift away from bombing out. It's either I pull out here or I try and pull it together and make one. But we jumped 4 kilos to, it was like, even if you make your opener, we still need more weight. So we're gonna have to go up just to like try and make this worth it. So we did. I think I went up to 160 or 158, something like that. And I go to pull under the bar. I catch it. And I'm like, oh, I made the lift. I made the lift. And then my elbow dislocates and goes like that. And I felt about 100 cracks in my elbow. And instantly it was swollen like a bowling pin in my forearm. And I couldn't straighten my elbow, none of that. I walk off the stage and the medical was like right there with me, and I'm like, "How'd you guys get there so fast?" And they're like, we saw your elbow not like in place anymore." Um, but that was the most stressful situation I've been in because before that, I'd never had like a real injury like that where I was like, "I'm gonna be sidelined for a while." Um, but I got the um the x-ray and stuff while I was at the medical table and they were like, "Oh, you're fine. Like you hyperextended your elbow really bad." And I was like, "No, I don't think so. Like this feels different." Um and then I went to like the ER and they were like, "You might be jacked up." And I was in Colorado. So I was like, "What am I supposed to do?" So I flew home with my jacked up elbow. I didn't have a sling or anything. I was just like trying to get
Still
back.
can't strain it or move it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime someone would bump into me or when I had to put my arms over my head for uh the TSA, like I couldn't. So I had to walk through like the old people line because I couldn't put my arm over my head. Uh and then I got back and the next day I got an MRI and I already had a surgeon like contacting me and stuff for it. And I was like, this is concerning why this is all moving so quick. And I got my MRI and they were like, yeah, it's fully torn. Um, I had blue and black all over my arm just from all the bruising and stuff that we were more confident that it wasn't bad because it didn't instantly blue and black on me. But then every hour it got more and more and more bad. And you could just see lines through my arm and like you could see the tear just from the bruising. You're like, okay, this is really bad. So I got that done. I got surgery 5 days after I tore it. So it was a very quick turnaround. And it was 8 weeks in a brace. Six of them were I was locked up on a 90-degree angle. So I didn't straighten my arm for almost 2 months. And then we loosened it up, and then it felt incredibly difficult to try and move my arm, even without the brace locking me down. Like I still couldn't get it straight. Um, and then it took until Monday to actually straighten my arm for the first time.
This
And
Monday.
yeah, this Monday was the first time I
And then
straightened
you
my arm.
sent some snatches yesterday.
Yep.
So what was the thought process when that happens? Yeah, because you talked about retiring. Was it just like this elbow? Did they tell you the elbow is not going to be able to snatch again? Like what was the thought process there?
I think for me, it was more, it wasn't that I couldn't do it again. It was more, am I willing to put myself back in this position again?
Yeah.
Like, I'd spent so much time and so much effort into being really, really good at this. And then it was finally my time. And then I get hurt. And it's like, is this worth it for me anymore? Am I willing to put myself through this again and all of that? And then for the first 5 months of my recovery, I was like, no. I'm good. I'll coach. I'll do this and that. I don't want to snatch or clean a jerk ever again. That was like the thing for me was like I know I can, but I just don't want to. Um, and it was my recovery hadn't necessarily been going great. I wasn't getting my extension back and stuff for a little late. I was probably 2 months late on getting my arm straight. So it was like maybe it's just not even a choice for me anymore. Like maybe I won't be able to do it. So I'm just going to tell myself that like it's not possible. And mentally, it was just draining. Like everything I did was surrounded by weightlifting. And I realized like maybe that's not the healthiest thing for me. Is like everything I do revolves around my training and revolves around my competing and all of that. Like there was no oh, let's go on a vacation and not worry about training. It was always training. Um, so not having that for 5 months, I was like, oh, this is great. Like I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't even think about going to the gym. And then it just got me fed up. I was like, I'm tired of this. Like I hate not training. I want to be good again. I'm tired of feeling sorry for myself and that um, I'm just a little baby about it and that I need to actually tighten myself up and be ready to go again. And it took until this weekend before I even got my arm straight because I got back on Monday and I was at the competition from Thursday to Sunday. So everybody was coming up to me and like they were like, "Are you done? Are you retiring? Are you coming back?" And I'm like, "I don't know, guys. I really don't." And then people started saying stuff whenever I was like, "I don't know." It was just not really a bunch of hate, but it was like, you wouldn't beat these people anyways, or you wouldn't do this. You won't be back to your numbers." And I'm like, "Okay, you can think that. It doesn't mean that's gonna be true. If I'm coming back, I'm coming back with a vengeance and showing people that they had their time, but now I'm coming back." Um, and you have to have a little bit of like cockiness or arrogance with it. Like, obviously, I'm behind the eight ball. If I want to get really good again and have a chance for this next Olympics, like, I need to get back soon. But I can't rush it. I can't do anything stupid to get me to go backwards. I have to keep moving forwards. But I think the biggest thing that was missing for me was like a purpose or a reason to come back. And I know using like anger and frustration and stuff is like not necessarily the best thing, but I think that was what sparked me wanting to do really good again was like I don't like being counted out and I don't like that people use my name as like oh, I hurt my elbow at the meet. I pulled a U. That happened a few times and I was like, oh, my name is not going to be used as a negative in this sport. Like we're not, I will come back and make my name something else if that's what that is.
Yeah.
And it really, really lit a fire under me. And a lot of my friends have been super supportive of like I've told them I'm like, I don't know if I'm coming back and stuff. And they're just like, if you don't want to, we'll support you. But it would be really cool to see what you can do on this come up. Like, we don't want you to give up because you don't think you can do it. We want to see you try. And now it's like, before I was like, I don't know. Like, what if I get my numbers back to somewhere close, but then I just never get back to it? And now I'm like, the the fuel and the things like that that have been kind of suppressed. I don't think I ever didn't want to train again. I think it was just the wanting to fight for it again was the hard part. And now I'm like, I'm ready. I want to push for it. I want to prove people wrong that they were counting me out. And it's just, yeah, I just have a insane fire lit under me right now.
Let's go, dude. I'm excited to watch this. This is gonna be badass. What's the return process look like for this? Like, is a UCL is tearing that like common in Olympic lifting at the really high level, or is it like anybody to look to, like rehab wise? Like, how are you gonna monitor everything? And like, do you have any like also like I know a big thing with especially with like ACLs with football guys, that's a big thing where it's like you can get them healthy, but then it's like the confidence again. And I'm thinking about the confidence of like putting 400 pounds over your head again. Like what's that like with your head? Like, how are you thinking about that? How are you approaching that? What's the approach? I know you're early on, but do you have any early like thought processes?
I just, for right now, the first probably 2 months, I just want to take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be on a program and stuff that is well thought out, and I'm going to have my physical therapist and my surgeon and stuff involved to make sure I'm doing it properly. Um, but I know that I can't limit myself. So every day might be a little bit more, or I might have to pull back, just depending on what my body feels like. Because having something like a UCL injury, it isn't the most common thing, and it's really never happens in weightlifting. especially to the caliber mine was with the dislocation and just having a bunch of scar tissue built up and stuff. Like it's not gonna feel good. My elbow doesn't feel necessarily great all the time still. Like I still have little bits of pain, but knowing that like that's normal and it will stabilize and maybe doing it more and more and more is gonna work all of that stuff out. That's the confidence part is like, okay, I can add a couple kilos every day until I'm back to my numbers instead of trying to take drastic jumps to be back there. Like now I'm in the beginner phase again. Like I know how to lift and I don't have to relearn how to do it. It's just being confident to do what I was doing. Um, but yeah, we have a lot of help getting me back to where I need to be. I don't know when I'll be back necessarily. Like obviously I'm training again, but getting back on a platform is very different than training because I'm not going to go to a meet and just suck. Like if I'm going to come back, I want to be at least competitive again, which could be sometime next year. Um, it really just depends on how the recovery goes. Starting to do this again. If I have anything that's like making me feel worse, then I'm not going to do it as much and I'm not going to push more weight. I might be at the 100 kilo snatch for a couple months. Who knows? Or I could snatch 140 in a month. It really depends. Because I have that in my back pocket of I've snatched almost 170 before. I've clean and jerked almost 210 before. These weights aren't going to feel heavy for me. It's just trusting the movement and that my body will hold together after it falling apart on me is going to be the hardest thing. And that's why we're taking it a day at a time of like, okay, don't think about what you did. Think about what you're doing now and what you can do in the future, but kind of forget about everything that was and know that it's there and that it can come back and that having that in your back pocket is really good for this return, but you can't compare. Like some days are just not going to be how they were. You're going to be a little bit more in pain more often than you were, but now you just got to push forward and never look back.
It's like the ultimate rebirth. Let's go, dude.
Yeah.
How's it feel after the first snatch session?
It was a little sore.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it was, I was just glad that I woke up this morning and it wasn't like painful. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm sore. I feel a little bit tighter, but whenever you do like ice or something like that, it's like fine. Um, Before, if I did like carried groceries, it would feel the same way. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, like it's naturally gonna feel better the more weight you put on or the more you do it. But at first I was like, man, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like first day, and I kept going up, and then it honestly felt better the more I went up. It was like the confidence coming back made the pain less. Whereas before it was like, I'm scared to pull under a bar with no weight on it. Now it's like, oh, 40 kilos felt light. It didn't hurt. 50, 60, 70, 80. I went 90, 100. Like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like it's not the 170s, but I mean, doing 100 kilos the first day back, it might be 60% of my best snatch ever. But I mean, hitting 60% after not doing it for 6 months and after blowing out an elbow is pretty good.
Yeah, we're gonna take that as a win.
Yeah, it's definitely a win.
Last question I want to ask about, and this is there's nothing there, but you talked about the auto regulation of like adjusting based off how you're feeling and pulling back. Do you use any technology for that? Are you a velocity based like trainer? Like, is it all percentage based? Like, what was your approach before you got injured? How were you like adjusting?
We use velocity a little bit, especially when I was younger. We would do more work up to a certain meters per second and then drop off. So it would be more of a point 0.3 or 0.25 would be like maximal. Um, so the auto regulation of that is like if, let's say, 80% is really heavy that day, that's where you cut it. Um, we would do not a ton of auto regulation for me has always been like what I feel for myself and not really what other things tell me. And a lot of people can't do that. but I feel like over the years of me doing it, it's been like, okay, I know with what 110 kilos feels like on a snatch that I'll be able to do 160 that day. Like I just know it early on. So if it feels bad early, I'm not even going to have that in my mind that I'm going to do 160. It'll be 140 or 145, like a pretty steep drop off from what I was going to do. I'm just not even going to think about the more weight. Um, so I definitely have to apply that now with, okay, I know 50 kilos is kind of hurting today. I'm not going to think about doing 120. But I've just had that ingrained in me for so long of if you're going to train as much as you do or compete as long as you have, you got to be able to auto regulate of, okay, this is not end all be all if you can't hit this weight. Um, it's better to pull back and then go bigger tomorrow or the day after than to try and fight through something. Um, but velocity was good. We didn't use it on snatch or clean and jerk very much, but it was always on squats and pulls. Just because velocity for snatch and clean and jerk, yeah, you can use it, but if you're trying to rip a bar off the floor, your technique is probably suffering. So you can do it, but it'll be varied pretty quickly depending on how fast that pull off the floor is. So it works, but it's not that helpful. Um, but I don't know. We didn't really use much other than that for auto regulation.
And do you think that's just because you have gotten to a level of like being able to like what was it like that? Because that's the thing. It's like the balance of auto regulating with an athlete. It's like you have the athletes that are like probably more so like you and I, where we're like maybe run ourselves through a wall and like go through maybe just like naturally, and you have to like pull those athletes back, and then you have the athletes. You're like, dude, that was an RP4, and you're telling me that was like a max out session. Like, did you have the process of learning that, or was it like pretty? Was like you were just pretty well in tune with the body?
I think it was definitely a process early on, and now I'm just in tune with
Good
it.
with it, yeah.
But early on, it was definitely like I would push a little too hard. Um, it would be like if we had a 5 RM squat, but I wasn't feeling good, I would still somehow work up to the number that would have been a PR. Um, and I would either make it very slowly or I'd miss the last one and it'd be like, what the hell? Like, why is that happening? Like, obviously I want it, so why am I not making it? And that's when you just go to your coaches and stuff and you're like, okay, you're tired. Why are you
Just
doing
settle you
it?
down. Yeah.
Like, just because a program says one thing does not mean that you're going to be able to do it every single day. A program is a baseline, and you can either, well, I don't want to say this and get people to go off program. If you, some days you might feel excellent, and those days you can push a little bit harder. Some days it's going to be the exact opposite of, okay, I have a 90% snatch workout, but everything feels heavy. It does not mean that that 90% is necessary that day. That was if this week has gone great, you're hitting 90% today. Do not take 90% 5 times because you want to hit it really bad and miss it 5 times because then that destroys your confidence in it for no reason because you're just tired. That's the only reason you're missing it. And you just have to don't put yourself into a position that can break your confidence. You know that you feel like trash one day. Don't make yourself feel even trashier because you're trying to hit numbers that you're supposed to do when you're feeling fresh. Um, so that's what I would do. It was like if there was days where I had doubles at 85%, but I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do 4 doubles at 85%. I wouldn't do one. I would already cut it down to 80% and do my 4 doubles. Do the same amount of volume with lighter weight. You don't have to, oh, I had a triples day and I feel like trash. I'm going to do singles instead. That's not what you're supposed to do. You do the workout with lighter weights and feel better about yourself because you know you did all the volume you could. And 5 to 10 kilos really isn't that much if you think about it, to where you're not getting that much of a different stimulus by just lightening up the weights on your body.
It's so funny. Like you were gonna go on the rant about programs not being written in stone. It's so funny. It's like it's common sense. Like it should be common sense. But then you give somebody something, it's like, I have to do this thing. But then it's also like you have to like earn the right to go off program. But you also have to use common sense. You know what I mean? Like it's like the
Yeah.
balance because you have two worlds of people. One who it's like they'll use any excuse in the world not to do the program or to like ADHD program hop. And then you have
Mhm.
the other people that it's like this is gospel. This needs to be done today because this is the goal that I set out for myself. It's like I think both sides just need to use a little bit more common sense. And I say this as somebody that struggles with like I don't know a good athlete that doesn't struggle with like the I feel like shit today. Common sense. You just slept bad or you just recovered poorly. You're not a piece of shit today. But you
Yeah.
get there, you're like, oh my God, bro, come on. Like, what is happening?
And you tell yourself that before you go to the gym. Like, you know, you feel bad, but then you touch a bar and for
You're
some
like, I
reason
need to.
you feel amazing and you feel like Rocky. And it's like, no, you don't. You feel terrible. Why are you trying to convince yourself that you don't? Like, it's great some days. You need to have that ability to turn a switch on because what if meet day feels bad? One, you probably prepped wrong because meet day should feel the best out of everything. But two, if it does feel bad, you do have to have that kill switch of like, okay, I can't choose to compete tomorrow. I have to push through this. But training is a little different. You can try and make things feel better so that when you get to meet day, you're not cooked. Um, some people like to push a little bit more than they should, getting close to meets, and they either peak too soon or they're a little late on their peak because they push days too far back. So you'd have to have that balance. But 90% of the time, pulling back is way better than pushing through. Unless you're just being a baby about it and like I slept 4 hours instead of my normal seven, take some caffeine and go to the gym. If you are coming off of being sick, that's one thing where you haven't been sleeping because you were sick. But if you stayed up playing video games until 3 a.m. and then you have to train at 9 in the morning, probably should have just not done that. And then you still got you still got to train.
Fuck yeah, dude. This was dope. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you guys for listening. Keep chopping wood.
Thank you for listening. Join us next week as we dive down another rabbit hole. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star rating. Follow us on Instagram at Austin Yoakum to stay updated on future podcast guests. Keep chopping wood.